Since the birth of cinema, people have always been asking, what actually is cinema? Is it about story or an exciting sensory experience? Gandhi wrote in 1990 that the main attraction of cinema comes from visual effects, which also be called as spectacles. It roots in sensory experience of carnival and amusement rides. Instead of narrative, its fascination lies in the power of its fiction, the illusion of reality in moving images. When cinema first appeared in 1890s, people went to the cinema to see the latest technology and function of machines. However, until 1907, audiences and the industry started to focus more on the quality of storytelling, formed an aesthetic toward narrative. Hence, the emergence of drama films reaches its climax during this period of time. Yet from around 2000s, the nature of cinema seems to reform again. We saw blockbusters like Titanic that focus on the presence of spectacles. Then we were introduced to digital cinema, CGI, 3D, motion capture, and thus we started to see films like Avatar that process with massive of new technologies and demonstrate magnificent spectacles. Most blockbusters nowadays all belongs to particular genres like science fiction, action, and adventure. Their stories all fit in similar templates of plots and are driven by spectacles to enhance the viewing experience. They strive to go beyond the boundaries of realism. They abandon the purpose and reflection behind the narrative and choose to attract and shock audience with strong images. Spectacle and technology have also become the primary selling point of film promotions, with a focus on emphasizing new cinematic experiences.
Visuals are breathtaking, and I must say it's an experience you must never miss.
The immersive and hyper-reality experience brought by new technology seems to already overtake the hegemonic of narrative in the digital era. It's more about experience instead of meaningful narrative, which again proves Gandhi's idea on the primary attraction of cinema. Globalization has led to an increasing focus and reliance on overseas markets for Hollywood, who need to create productions that can be easily translated to all parts of the world and cultures, and that is more reachable by spectacles. Films nowadays focus more on developing a complete universe or huge IPs, as obsessed to an individual story. Characters and universe are more important than quality of script because it can continuously attract fans and audiences. Audiences are more attracted by the presence of Easter eggs or shocking spectacles than the quality of the narrative, which can easily satisfy them with. When the audiences walk out of the cinema, they normally won't remember or discuss about the story, but more of the spectacles that highly shock them. While the climax of traditional movies is defined based on the highlight of the narrative, the climax of nowadays films are more often identified as the most engaging and exciting spectacle scenes. This shift leads to a revolution in the business model of film distribution. It's no more limited in the cinema, but expands into more commodity cultures. Not only are the famous characters in the IPs designed to be sold as a variety of products, they are also designed into theme parks. They provide chance for audiences to further immerse themselves in the movie world in reality. Films become more like a 90-minute commercial advertisement that sells its characters and surreal settings. Spectacles attracts audiences to walk into the cinema and further consume products, thus benefiting producers from more aspects than only the box office by comparing to the narrative films. Remakes of films also shows the significance of spectacles, since remakes usually focus more on improving spectacles rather than narrative. The 1981 and 2010 versions of Clash of the Titans have similar stories, but the later version added in more advanced special effects and was released in 3D. Although there are still lots of improvements need to be made for its narration, I still choose to focus on transforming of scenes and spectacles to attract audiences. This is also reflected in many animated movies, such as the recent Mario Brothers, who transformed a 2D game character into a 3D movie. The film's plot follows the simplest template of narrative. However, it's liked by many audiences because it demonstrated many famous and familiar games of Nintendo via excellent special effects.
I don't think it's a great film. I don't think it has a great story. But at the same time, I haven't played one single Mario game in my life for the story. I play those games because they are visually and audibly appealing, and this movie is a lot of that.
Audiences' preferences and criteria for rating films are changing. Although some professional critics may criticize on a film's narrative, they still cannot impact on the film's overall rating and popularity, because mainstream audiences have already made the spectacles the primary criteria for rating. Audiences' cinematic aesthetic has changed from narrative to an immersive aesthetic or new sensationalism. This explains why even though many films are not suitable for 3D, they still choose to publish 3D and IMAX versions for audiences to choose. The 3D and IMAX version of a same movie is more popular than 2D most of the time, because audiences always want to have the best immersive cinematic experiences. It's believed that human has an enduring fascination with the experience of virtual space and immersion. Development in technology have further motivated and satisfied people's fascination with illusion. The support of cinematic credibility changes when we see more and more realistic but non-existent images. Audience preferences are important because it determines the future development of the film industry. If technology continues to develop, it seems likely that narrative will be completely replaced by spectacle in the future. At least so far, the two still don't seem to be a perfect blend and balance. No matter which side leads a hegemonic, there is bound to be a lot of value lost on the other side. This leads us to think once again, what actually is cinema about? Should narrative be more important or spectacles? And where does the future cinema goes from here?